and then you wanted to talk about cosmetic psychopharmacology too.
Yeah.
I think about this in terms of something like Botox for people's personalities. So just like people want to have physically enhance their appearances, people want to psychologically enhance their themselves too. And then, you know, to what degree does this produce significant alterations? To what degree is it okay to make yourself into somebody you're not? Is that in the same category as changing your facial appearance, for example, with plastic surgery? And that's an interesting question. And then where an ethical issue comes in for me is then, to what degree do clinicians have a responsibility to not let people do this? In other words, changing basically who they are in order to be somebody that they're not. Part of this strikes me as being an interesting and very American question, because we live in a country where people are constantly trying to reinvent themselves, and people come here from other countries in order to reinvent themselves. So it's not a big step to see that there are people who want to change their personalities and are willing to do that with pharmacological assistance. I'm still trying to decide what I think about that, but it's an interesting dilemma. And then here's another ethical issue. There's a subgroup of people who have this overwhelming desire to cut off one of their limbs. I can't remember what the exact clinical term for this is, but they don't feel normal, and they think they would feel normal if they were missing a limb. So some of these people will go to take extraordinary measures to do this. First of all, they might try to find a surgeon who will do it, and most won't, for good reasons. And then they'll do things like put their leg in, let's say, you know, liquid nitrogen or dry ice or something like that, in order to produce impairments to the point where, you know, medically people have no choice but then to cut it off. So they'll do these kinds of things, and they'll often say after they lose their limb, they feel good, this feels right, this feels normal. So then one of the ethical issues is, okay, these people claim that they're suffering because they have all their limbs intact, and what would feel normal to them is to be missing one of their limbs. So as a surgeon, as a medical professional, do you have an obligation to alleviate their suffering even though you're actually damaging or removing a part of their body? I think there are a lot of ethicists who would say, no, you can't do that. These people are damaged, they're impaired, and you've got to find out why they feel this way. That's not normal. I know of one case of a guy who, after being on antidepressant drugs, began to rethink his desire to have one of his limbs cut off after he had one of these done already, because I think he exposed himself to dry ice and lost it. But so there's a number of places here where we have the technology to do these things, and then the question is, should we do these things? Whose decision is it to make to do these things? And then how does that work in a society that prides itself on being libertarian and promoting fulfillment of the individual and maximum happiness of the individual? So I think where people draw the line is going to be different from society to society, and maybe more liberal in this country because we like to have people do what they wish with their bodies.